Welcome along to our big GCN preview of Strade Bianche 2024.
Longer than ever, with more gravel than ever, but will it be the best edition ever?
We shall find out this coming Saturday, but ahead of that, let's go through the route with its changes and the first key riders taking part. First up though, this is how the races unfolded a year ago.
There, just warning them that she's seen a horse. Kristen Faulkner. They know that they've got to get the American back. She's going to get some company very shortly. Kristen Faulkner, as we said, is going down swinging. Strade Vollering now trying to come over the top of her teammate. It is going to be thrown to the line between the two of them.
You've got Pidcock on the left. It's technical.
Crikey.
That is it. Tom Pidcock going solo. It's a sight for sore eyes. It's the next generation, led by Tom Pidcock.
A close, properly contested sprint there between teammates Vollering and Kopecky in the women's race, and a win after a long solo effort from Pidcock to take the men's. All three are set to compete again this year, which is great.
Yeah, in what is an extended route for both races, which we'll take a look at now. Both races still start from the Piazza del Campo in Siena. The men's race is 215 kilometres, an extra 31 k's versus last year, whilst the women's is virtually the same distance at 137, but there are some significant differences to the route.
And that is because both the men's and the women's races take in a new finishing circuit that will see two of the familiar sectors tackled twice in each race.
Whoa. So let's take a closer look at the men's race to start with, which is over 200 kilometres for the first time in its, albeit short, history. There are 15 sectors totalling over 70 k's of white roads, and there's no easing into it. The first of those sectors comes after just 14 k's of racing, and the second soon after that.
Which is where the early break is normally formed, or is traditionally formed. But the way things are going, I think the early break might just be the big hitters riding away from everybody else at the start of the race. Anyway, the 8th sector for the men on Saturday is the Monte Santa Maria, which is where the winning move has gone for the past 2 years, of Pogacar and Pidcock respectively.
This year though, due to the changes, it comes a lot further from the finish, so it'll still be a significant part of the race, you'd have thought, being 11 kilometres long and including a significant climb and quite a technical descent as well.
Descent.
But when they come off the gravel, they will still have over 70 k's to the finish.
Which might serve to deter any kind of over-exuberance.
Yeah.
From there, they'll have close to 20 k's of respite before 3 sectors that come in quick succession, culminating in Le Tolfe, the short, steep ascent that comes after a downhill, normally concludes the gravel for the race.
This year, however, they head out on that final loop, taking in 2 new sectors before retracing their steps and then following the traditional run into the finish line.
Ahead of that line, of course, there's the not insignificant climb that takes them into Siena, where we have seen some fantastic battles over the years. Not recently in the men's races, we have 2 solo winners in a row.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, the women's route follows the same roads as the men's for the first 50k or so, before making a change in direction and heading back towards Siena. There, they'll take in that same finishing loop, giving them a total of 12 sectors of gravel, totaling a little over 40 kilometres.
Time will tell, of course, whether or not they should have meddled with this route. As a person that doesn't like change personally though, my first thought is definitely, if it ain't broke, just don't fix it.
Well, I mean, I agree, definitely. I'm not against innovation or indeed resting on your laurels, but there was a reason why this race rose to prominence, wasn't there, in such a short period of time, and that was because it immediately stumbled upon a winning formula. What, 17 years ago?
Yeah, 2007 was it? I think so. Well, I've got my fingers crossed. Anyway, it's the riders, of course, that make the race, as the old saying goes.
Yeah, so RCS can blame them, can't they?
Yes, if it's no good.
If it's not as good.
Exactly. Just before we get on to the riders competing, we just wanted to point you to our shop, in which you will find a couple of designs that are a nod towards the Stirato of Tuscany.
Yep.
We're really pleased with these particular designs, and if you would like to see them, you can make a purchase over on shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com. Your support is genuinely really appreciated in what has been quite a difficult time for the company, hasn't it, with the closure of GCN Plus.
I'm just pointing to the ankles on there. They're a lot thinner than mine.
They are a lot sleeker than yours. Should we get on to the rides taking part?
Yes, let's do it.
Good news on the men's. The winners of the past 2 editions of the race are on the start list. We've already mentioned Pidcock, should I say. But Pogačar is there as well.
Yeah, for the latter, it'll mark his first race of the season, unlike 2022, where he'd already won 2 stages and the overall at the UAE Tour.
But given that his first race of the season last year was the Clásica Jaén Paraíso in Spain with its own gravel roads, and he won that solo, doesn't mean that he won't be on race-winning form, of course.
No, I mean, when is Pogačar not on race-winning form?
That is a very good point.
Yes. He's got quite the team as well to back him up, hasn't he? Hershey and Ayuso, both of whom won races in France at the weekend. Tim Wellens, who put on a very good showing in Omloop and Kuurne-Brussels-Kuurne. And Isaac Del Toro, who has hit the pro scene with a bang this year.
Almost an understatement, isn't it? That's a bit like the Visma Lease bike of Omloop.
Yeah.
That level and strength and depth, isn't it? Pick your winner. I don't envy, though, whoever is supposed to be domestique or helper for the rest of the one team. That's a lot of pressure on your shoulders, isn't it?
That's right, and you also won't have much help either, because you'd pretty much be on your own. It'll be interesting to see whether Pogačar does play the numbers game with his teammates, though, wouldn't it? He does tend to be the sole leader.
No, that is very true, isn't it? Yeah, it will be interesting to see how they tackle the tactics, won't it? Speaking of Visma Lease bike, their team looks completely different to the opening weekend. In fact, from what we know so far, provisional start list, it looks like Christophe Laporte is the only rider that's going to make the journey from Belgium all the way down to Italy, whilst the rest of the squad is quite climber heavy, if that's not a contradiction in terms.
Yeah. Kuss and Tullet, both of whom have experience off-road, are set to be there, alongside Attila Valter and Bart Lemon, both of whom looked pretty decent at the recent UAE Tour.
It doesn't look like the all-conquering squad, though, nevertheless, does it, that we've been accustomed to. But still some quality names in there, so they've definitely got a chance. Ineos will obviously be looking to Pidcock as their main man. That was certainly the case on Saturday at Omloop, wasn't it? Where he was the only rider of the 4 that they'd managed to get into the lead group that split early in the race. He was the only rider able to follow the move when it went. They went from 4 to 1 very quickly. Yeah,
another former winner, double winner in fact, actually, though, at Strade Bianche, Michał Kwiatkowski, will provide some useful experience and backup.
Geraint Thomas is set to make his debut at the race, whilst Magnus Sheffield, who himself has a history of cyclocross, is another asset for them. Should we move on to Soudal Quick-Step next?
I think we should, yeah.
As we all know, they're not the classics force to be reckoned with, as they have been in the past. Basically, whilst they transition into becoming a Grand Tour squad built around Evenepoel. However, they also have a former winner in their ranks for this race, Julian Alaphilippe.
He's not having much luck at the
No.
moment, is he? 2 big crashes on Saturday, which came after a public and frankly unforgivable scolding from his manager Patrick Lefevre last week. I think we're all hoping, aren't we, to see him get back to the
I'd
best.
love to see it, yeah.
But right now, it's hard to see him winning a race.
Unfortunately, yes. Casper Asgreen will be there as well, the rider who finished 3rd here 2 years ago, while Gianni Moscon, new recruit, will be hoping to refine the form that saw him almost win Paris-Roubaix 2.5 years ago? Wasn't that long ago?
My words, yeah. Keep your eyes on Alberto Bettiol as well. He is always up for this race. And he's got some strong riders around him as well on the EF Education First Team. Carapaz, Healy, Paulus, all pretty handy in one-day races. So they've got cards to play.
They do, yes. At least according to the provisional start list, to remind you. Andreas Kron and Lennart van Eetveld will be a good duo for Lotto Destiny. But the outsider I'm most looking forward to watching is Romain Grégoire of Groupama. He's making his debut here, but it feels like a race that I think should suit his style down to the ground. And there is no doubt, of course, that he is incredibly talented.
No, Stefan Kung will also be on that team, won't he? Along with French champ Valentin Madouas. Dylan Turns spearheads the Israel Premier Tech team. He looked fairly solid last weekend, didn't he? But keep your eyes out for young Riley Sheehan too, winner of Paris Tour last year as a stagiaire.
That was impressive,
like an apprentice.
Speaking of US hopefuls, in fact, Quinn Simmons is a man who loves this race and who has been right up there in the past. In fact, I think the puncture thwarted him once. I really feel like if everything goes right for him, he would be threatening a podium place in this race.
But he's a big, strong guy, isn't he? And it feels a little bit like...
Maybe it's shifted.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of little guys now.
Well, maybe that might be one of the things that happens with the change of the route, because the longer climbs, where things have been decided in the men's race for the past couple of years, they're further from the finish. So if it does dissuade those sorts of attacks, the latter climbs are much shorter and they're steeper, but they're shorter as well, which might play into the favour of somebody like Quinn Simmons.
You'd think that Visma Lease would have done their homework and sent Wout van Aert. Anyway.
Well, maybe Visma Lease a Bike know a bit more than I do.
Well,
You never
we'll
know.
find out. The last two riders we're going to mention are Matej Mohoric and Ivan Garcia Cortina. Mohoric, because he can never be counted out, and although he was a little bit disappointed in his results last weekend, he should be there or thereabouts.
He's also gravel world champion.
Yeah, he is.
Isn't he? So there's a bit of pressure on his shoulders.
He's allowed to wear his Gravel World Champs jersey for 70 kilometres, isn't he?
Yes,
Got to keep
quick
taking it on and off.
switcheroonie.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't like to see Matej Mohoric win Strade Bianche there and a masterclass on the gravel roads?
Well, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. Ivan Garcia Cortina, meanwhile, looked brilliant last Sunday in Omloop when the front groups came together, so watch out for him. That said, he's not really set the world alight on the 3 times that he's ridden this race in the past.
He's not. On to the women's race now, and despite being beaten at Omloop on Saturday, SD Works remain the team to beat. They finished 1-2, of course, last year, as we mentioned, with Pidcock and Vollering, both of whom will start as big favourites this time around.
They'll certainly be their 2 protected riders. I mean, doesn't take a genius to work that out. There'll be question marks, I would say, though, after their performance last Saturday, because I fully expected Lotte Kopecky, not just given last year's form, but this year's, to ride clear over either the Mur or the Bosberg. And I definitely didn't expect Vollering to be distanced there, even though it was her first race of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it looks as though all of the riders who were in that front group of 4 last Saturday are going to be racing again this week. So we should probably talk about them as well, shouldn't we? Starting with Marianne Vos, nothing short of a masterclass.
No,
Saturday,
I reckon they should use that ride that Vos did on Saturday as some kind of example to all aspiring pro cyclists in a school, Tactics 101.
Yeah.
Because she was stealthy, controlled, she got into the head of the other riders in the break, particularly Kopecky. She hid well, she didn't do more than her fair share of work on the front. It was so good to watch. And it also means she's back, doesn't it? That was
That's
her
it,
first
yeah.
win in Omloop at her first participation. And
Still
one of
can't
the
get over
very
that.
few races she's got left to tick off on her palmares, Strade Bianche.
It is a different beast.
It is.
Isn't it? Unfortunately. More climbing en route. But given the power that she showed last Saturday, and for the previous 20 years or so,
Yes.
could this be her year?
I really hope so.
I really hope so.
Like you said, she's won pretty much everything else in the world, hasn't she? It would seem fitting that a race this good has the name Marianne Vos written into its history books.
Agreed.
The other 2 riders at the head of affairs in Omloop on Saturday were Shirin Van Androoy and Elisa Longo Borghini of Little Trek.
Yeah, the latter is a former winner of this race, albeit 7 years ago now, but she's also been 3rd, 5th, 2nd and 8th since then. She had a really tough season in 2023, didn't she, with injury and illness. But like Vos, it looks like she's close to being back to her best.
Meanwhile, Van Androoy will be loving the gravel given her cyclocross background. She took a top 10 here in her only participation a couple of years ago when she was still only 20 years old. 2 years older, stronger and wiser now. And for me, this parcours for her suits her a lot more than it did at Omloop on Saturday. So she would definitely, in my books, start as one of the big favourites.
Yeah, as will fellow cyclocrosser Puck Peterson,
Yeah.
who's made this one of her big goals of the season, hasn't she?
On the road, yeah.
Yeah, she was 5th on her debut last year in what was one of her first ever professional road races as well, wasn't it? 2 top 10s last weekend, bode pretty well. And like Van Androoy, this route suits her really well. And I'm hoping she should have Yara Castelline
I hope so too.
company as well, although she hasn't raced so far this year.
No. As ever, confirmation on who is riding the women's race is coming quite late, but there are a few guarantees you'd have thought, one of which is Kasia Niewiadoma of Canyon SRAM. We speak about her every year
We do.
on this preview show, don't we? She has been so consistent in this race over the years, so close to winning it, but it just hasn't quite happened for her in terms of crossing the line first.
No, like Mohoric, she is also gravel world champion, so clearly at home on the dirt. And I would love to see her win it.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, it just feels like she's earned a place on that winners list.
Still got a few years left to do it now.
Yeah,
hasn't
she has, yeah.
I hope she's got Elisa Shabby alongside her because as we've seen firsthand, Si,
Yeah.
she is a demon descender.
Oh my word,
isn't she?
yes. Another rider with some pretty consistent results in this race is Ashley Moorman-Passio. She'll be riding for AG Insurance on Saturday. Plus Mavi Garcia, who came close to winning this race in 2020 after a long solo breakaway.
We should mention Sylvia Persico as well. Really talented rider and yet another who's got plenty of experience in cyclocross. This should be the perfect race for her.
Yeah, now just before we get on to predictions, should we do a weather watch?
Oh yes.
It can make a huge difference to this race, can't it?
Yeah, we should point out we're recording this on Monday,
Yeah.
shouldn't we? So things can change, of course. But as things stand, there is some rain forecast over this week in that area of Tuscany, including on Saturday.
Just over a 50% chance of rain whilst the race is on. Light winds, maximum temperature of 11 degrees centigrade. So potential to be an epic then. It's been a while since we had a grimy version. Less Strade Bianche, more Strade Brown.
That was it 5 years ago, was it? When Wout van Aert, Tish Benoit were covered in mud at the front of the race?
Yeah, it would be like literally take your kit off and throw it in the bin. There's no coming back from that, is there?
No.
No coming
I think
back.
that's the only rainy edition that we've had. I know it's a short history, but it does go to show you're better off living in Tuscany than the UK if you want good weather in March.
Yeah.
Right, who are you going for?
In the women's race, I'm going to go for Kopecky. I think she's going to do it, much as I'd like to see Marianne Vos do it. In the men's race, that's a tricky one, actually. I think I'm going to go Pogacar, actually. I just don't think you can bet against him.
Pogacar. No, you can't bet against him, can you?
No.
Okay, I'm going to go for two people that I would like to see win, first of which is a real long shot, but I mentioned him earlier, Romain Gregoire. I think that he's such a talented, exciting rider to watch. Probably a year or two too early for him still.
Okay.
But I'd like to see Groupama having success in Italy as well. And on the women's side, I'll go Puk Pizza.
Yeah. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
It would be really cool. I mean, she's so good in so many disciplines, isn't she? But like you said, 5th last year. Year older, year wiser.
Yeah.
You never know.
Mountain bike champ.
No. But I think obviously the favourites are going to be Pogacar and Kopecky.
Yeah. Yeah, but what you're saying, I've gone for the boring options.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if I win, it's because it was obvious. Basically.
Right, well, I think that's bringing us to the end of the preview show for Strade Bianche. I'd be interested to know your thoughts on the change of course that they've got this year. Should they have stuck with what seemed to work very well, or could it be even more epic now that it's longer on the men's side and there is more gravel on the women's side? Let us know who you think is going to win in the comment section down below as well. Thanks very much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it.